because I hear the word like salesy all the time.
Yeah.
Like people saying, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be pushy. And I get it. Like I do understand that, like not wanting to like be too pushy.
Yeah.
But then I also think it more often than not, it kind of diminishes the value that you bring. And it makes you hold back from talking about like how much your product or your service or whatever it is really going to help people and really going to like bring value to them.
Hey, it's your host Emily with Poppie Studios. I'm sitting down with fellow creative entrepreneurs as we share our wins, losses, highs, lows, and everything in between that comes from running your own business. So grab a cup of coffee and join the conversation. Welcome to this very special episode of the Launch Your Biz YouTube show. Today I am joined by the very talented sales and launch copywriter, Ellie Runkles. Hey, Ellie.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
Yay! So you were actually, we know each other because we ran like a scholarship thing last year, I think. And that's how you and I found each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was like right around the time I was starting my business. So that was like perfect timing. Yeah. As I was getting off the ground, came across you, and it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's really fun to like have you on the show now and tell everybody like what it is you do. So what it is she does is, like I said, sales and launch copywriter, and not necessarily like sales. We'll get more into that later, but we're going to talk about how to use your copy. Then that's like the text on your website and the content you send out, and how to use it to grow your business and convert more clients. And so first, before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you and your business journey.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm a sales and launch copywriter, and which basically means that I do the written content for people's websites and emails and things like that. I've been in business for just about a year now, and started my business after doing a master's degree in Spain. I actually live in Spain. And I moved here. That's a very long story that we don't need to get into the whole.
But I think that's awesome and amazing. So I love that we get to have you on.
Yeah. So I moved here right out of college, basically looking for an adventure. Like didn't want to go and get a real full-time job. And so the plan was to be here for a year, and now that's turned into like nearly 6.
That's amazing.
But yeah, anyways, I ended up doing a master's degree here, and essentially job market in Spain is non-existent. And so after like months of applying for like unpaid 40-hour-a-week internships, I realized, you know what, I can do this on my own. And so that's essentially how my business got started.
Yes.
And then it's been kind of a crazy ride from there, but really good.
Love it. What an awesome story. And like you said, it like too long to get into, but I'm interested. So definitely like get in touch with her if you want to know more. I think that's a really cool.
I mean, I'm happy to share whatever you guys are interested in, but it's kind of a weird winding story.
But just what a cool thing. Like go out and do it. That's what you want to do. Go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly. I really, at that point in my life, I was more clear on like what I didn't want, which I knew I didn't want to go and get like a 9-to-5
yes.
like, to corporate America. So, delayed that a little bit, and then I just keep delaying it. So
I think that's funny that you mentioned that. Like it's totally off topic, but like that, I think that's what starts a lot of us wanting to start our own businesses is we know what we don't want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want a 9-to-5 or the 8-to-5. Let's be real. It's like 8
or
8 to 6, depending on your commute. And like, we know we don't want that. We don't want to be answering to somebody else. So we start our own business and we figure it out. So like, that's the whole point of this, What I Wish I'd Known series, and why you're on as a guest for us today, is to like answer questions for people who are like right there, that are like, I don't want this anymore. Now what? So I'm excited to have you on because I feel like the sales copy, the structure of your work with me page, things like that, like that's so important. And I think a lot of times when we start out, we kind of slap up a quick templated website and we just think it's going to happen. People are just going to find us and it's just going to happen and it's magically going to work. So let's talk a little bit about how to, well, first off, what is sales copy, and then how you can use it to grow your business and actually get clients to book with you. So first off, why is it so important? Why should you not just throw up a website and call it done?
Yeah. So, copy, just in general, the term copy is any written content that's for your business, any written marketing content. So it's the written text on your website, it's the written text in your Instagram captions, it's anything you write for your business, which I know the copy is not a term that everybody knows until you get in the business world, but essentially just anything you write for your business. And sales copy is specifically the copy that is like has a specific sales purpose. So it's a little bit different than your general email marketing stuff that you do, like your email newsletter you send out every week, your blog posts, because those are super important too, because it's building the relationship and it's showing your people, what you stand for and helping to, get them like to know you.
Yes.
But sales copy is when you're like really driving the sale. So it's like focused on, you want them to take a specific action that will lead them to either making a purchase from you or working with you.
Right. I think that freaks people out, is hearing the word sales.
Yeah. And that's actually something that I'm really trying to like, put my stake in the ground and get people a little more comfortable talking about sales and selling, because I hear the word like salesy all the time. Like people think, I don't want to sound salesy, I don't want to be pushy. And I get it. Like I do understand that, like not wanting to like be too pushy. Yeah. But then I also think it more often than not, it kind of diminishes the value that you bring. And it makes you hold back from talking about like how much your product or your service or whatever it is really going to help people and really going to like bring value to them. And so that's essentially what sales copy is it's getting to know your ideal clients, finding out really like what their problem is that they're facing, what they are struggling with every single day, and really like the desires that they have, like what the outcome that they really want. And then sales copy is taking all of that and then communicating it to them in a way that gets them like, yes, this is the thing I need. And let me pull out my wallet because you are the solution to my problem.
Yeah. I think we've probably all like experienced that. I know when I was trying to get into copywriting and writing my own about me pages and things, I struggled with kind of like selling yourself. I mean, really that's what you're doing. You're like bragging on yourself to tell the world why you're awesome and why they should hire you. And so you struggle with that a little bit. But then I go to these influencers on social media, I see their really awesome copy, and I'm like, yes, that's me. I need that. So I think that's what we're working towards for our pages and our content ourselves, is getting to this point, like you said, where we speak to our clients and they're like, yes, that is me. You're clearly going to solve my problem.
Yeah. And so to kind of combat that, like the don't be salesy mentality and like try to not be salesy, I'm trying to replace that with like more of a positive and talk about like replace trying not to be salesy with trying to sell with empathy, which means it's kind of taking yourself out of it, right? Like then it takes the focus off of like, I don't want to be this. And then it puts it on your ideal client and like, what did they need to hear? And so really like in terms of like the writing you do for your business, you can like take everything that you learned in high school about how to write an essay, everything you learned about like correct writing, like you can throw that out the window.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah. Like grammar rules, things like that. It doesn't really matter. It's all about just like, it's more about listening, to be honest. It's about listening to the people who you want to serve, your ideal clients, and then like taking their words and almost like repeating them back to them and saying like, okay, I hear you. I hear what you need, and now like let me tell you that and then show you the solution to this situation.
I love that. That's such a great tip, is like throw all the AP style and all of the grammar rules out the window. Just have a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. Just write how you talk, and that'll need to be edited a little bit, like word for word, write how you talk, but that you know take some of that pressure off to follow the rules that you were taught about correct writing.
I love what you said about empathy too. And in last week's episode, which I know you and I were recording this before it's actually aired, but like viewers now, last week's episode was with Justine Wong of It Just Flows. And she was really talking about empathy and taking it off of you and thinking more about them, the clients, and not just in it's in all parts of your business. So I love that we're tying it in now to like the sales copy too, because that's kind of usually the first place people find you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you're kind of in a lot of different places on the internet. You've got your videos, you've got podcasts, people hear your voice and see your face in different places. But a lot of the times, even if that's where somebody finds you initially, before they reach out to you, they're going to go to your website. They're going to go and check out your content, your written content. Yep. And that's really where that deciding factor comes in. And that's really where people will say yes, this is the solution to my problem, or I'm confused. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get if I reach out to this person.
Yeah.
And that clarity before somebody reaches out to you is so important, because it helps them to just feel confident. And when they get on a sales call with you or whatever the case is, they can go in feeling like this person has already told me that they're the solution to my problem, rather than going in with I don't know what I'm going to get. I have no idea what to expect, kind of thing. And so it helps build that relationship right from the beginning.
And I think that's when people start to feel salesy. And that's when, on the receiving end of it, you're like, you seem suspicious to me because I don't exactly know why we're on the phone right now. So making sure you have good sales copy helps eliminate that worry in their mind.
Exactly. Yeah. It's actually doing them not a favor, but it's helping your ideal clients by being a little bit salesy, by being a little bit more upfront about what you have to offer and how you can help them. It does actually it takes the work away from them, because they don't have to decipher and try and figure out what exactly they're going to get by working with you.
Yes. I think we've all had that friend who gets into the new what is it? Multi-level marketing, MLM marketing, or pyramid schemes is the term for it. We all have them call us up sometime and they're like, hey, you want to meet for lunch? And you're like, yeah, friend, let's meet for lunch. And then they start pitching their product and you're like, wasting my lunchtime. You're pitching me your product. And I thought we were just going to hang out. I think that's what a lot of us are afraid of. We're afraid we're going to start pitching our product and then be like, this is not what I expected. So the sales copy helps clear that up front.
Exactly. It's better to be upfront about it and say, this is the thing I have for you. And obviously in a relationship, with people, that's where the other types of copy come in, your monthly newsletter and your blog posts and things like that come in, because that's the relationship building stuff. And we can even talk about how to structure your sales page or work with me page and things like that, so that as they're reading that page, the relationship is already being built in the first few paragraphs there before you get into the kind of pitch, I guess.
Right. So so those are the two things that I definitely want to talk about. It's kind of the difference between sales copy and regular content, because we don't want our whole website to just be selling them the whole time. We definitely want some regular, nice, relationship building content. And then also I want to hit on how to structure the work with me page. So first off, I guess, what's the difference between sale copy and regular copy, and kind of what's the balance?
Yeah. So, some people will argue that it's all sales copy. Everything you write for your business is technically leading toward eventually getting to that sale. And there are different levels, it's like the funnel of people. At the top, you're more, attracting content. So your freebies and things like that. And as you go further down, then you get closer to the sale.
Yes.
But in general, sales copy is more focused on that. It's more bottom of the funnel stuff, focused on. Very specific,
I am selling you something.
Yeah. Yes. Whereas the general copy is more focused on getting, a lot of times it's about educating. So helping people understand what you do, why they need what you do, or the value of what you do. But then the calls to action would probably not be to book your services or buy your product. It would be more come follow me on Instagram, come sign up for this free opt-in, or things like that are still more relationship building. And then eventually you kind of just go down further and further and further into the funnel. And then you get to the point where you're making the sale.
I think that's a great way to put it. And I know, at least for me, I've heard a lot of different, sales funnel, get your sales funnel. And it just is head spinning. But I think that was I like how you just made it very clear and make it big, generic, broad, just start following me. And then very specific, which, obviously you think about a funnel, right? It's the top is bigger. So more content is just going to be about relationship building. And then the very lesser content is going to be very specific, like, here's what I'm selling you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, you are going to have more of those like top of the funnel things. Yeah. So you will have, you know, like your sales page, your handful of emails you send out about that specific topic. You know, there are less pieces of sales copy. And so it kind of becomes more important to make sure that all the wording is really clear and concise and really gets to the point, because there's less of it. You know, you're not pushing it all the time. So it needs to be really clear and easy for them to understand what they're going to get.
Love that. That's a great way to put it. So what would the structure be then? So like we're down to our sales content. We want to start creating that. What's the structure of like, whether it's your like work with me page or whatever kind of page you're calling it, like what's the structure for that then?
Yeah. So you want to start out on a sales page or work with me page. They're very similar pieces of copy, but you want to start out by helping your ideal client to self-identify so that they can really like see that you are the person that can solve their problem. Well, not even that you can solve their problem, but that you understand their problem.
So by self-identify, you mean like they relate. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, that's me. That's totally me.
Yeah. So they're reading it and it's just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like, I have that same problem, or I am in that situation. Yes. And so it's really just about like, almost you can just list out like these are the things that you're experiencing right now. You're like, for example, for a wedding photographer or wedding invitations, you just got engaged. You've got a million things to like knock off your list. You had no idea how complicated wedding planning was going to be. You've got like just kind of listing out things that are like, this is what you're experiencing right now. And then you transition to the opposite of that. So the first part is kind of like, you could call it the problem. I like to focus on empathy points more than pain points. Just to help them to understand like, okay, this is the situation I'm in and it's not great. Like it could definitely be improved. And then get into the opposite, which is what life could look like on the other side of having.
I think that's a great way to put it, because I think we've heard for so long, like pain points, make them feel like they're failing, you know, like point out where they're failing. But really it's more about, I totally get it. I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. And people are, I mean, as you know, marketing gets more sophisticated, people are getting smarter and they can see through those just like picking a pain point and make you feel horrible so that you buy it. People don't call for that anymore.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes, totally agree. So you start with kind of like the empathy points, and then we get down into the sales points. So what would you recommend, I guess, how do you, especially because I feel like a lot of our listeners are like photographers or creatives, and we're scared to be salesy, like we talked about. So how do you list out, like, you know what they're feeling, you know the things you can solve for them, what you have to offer. So how do you tell them that then? So
the way I like to structure it is, so we've got the like kind of, we'll call them pain points, but like what they're experiencing now. Then you go on to present like, this is what the opposite of that could look like. This is how things could look on the other side. So like, okay, now like, how would you feel to have like all your wedding invitations like done, all of that checked off your list, and you've got like beautiful, I mean, I'm not a wedding person, so yeah.
No, it sounds great as a wedding invitation. I love what you're saying.
Yeah, so like, how would it feel to have you know, these things planned out for you and like easy, simple, everything's like moving smoothly. And then you present your service or your product as like the bridge between those two things. So it's like problem, like other side of the problem, and then I can help you get there. That's kind of like a bridge to bridge that gap. Yeah. And so then you present your offer as, you know, whatever it is, like custom hands lettered wedding invitations. And then from there, you want to talk about both benefits and features. So benefits are kind of those concrete outcomes that people are going to get. Okay. So what we talked about with the opposite of the problem, like how they're going to feel, those are the benefits. So like, you can completely forget about it. Everything will be taken care of for you. You'll have custom hand lettered things that are like a perfect representation of you and your fiance or whatever. Go into those details. And then below that, that's where you get into features, which is, for example, a pack of 100 wedding invitations, or 2 rounds of revisions, or X different types of materials that we can use, things like that.
I love that. Okay, that's a great, I'm glad you pointed that out, the difference between benefits and features. I think a lot of times we miscommunicate or intertwine and not realize, but it's good to know. And as someone who does wedding invitations, you hit on some things that people want to know the benefits. They want to know what they're going to get, right? But then they also want to know how they're going to get it. So the specifics of this is the type of paper I use. This is the, this is how long it's going to take, 2 to 3 weeks, things like that. So very specific, I like that.
Yeah. And people really need both. They need to understand how it's going to make their life easier, or how they're going to feel with it. But then also they need to understand the process of okay, this is what it's actually going to look like. So depending on what your service or product is, it could be if, for example, a course, you might put out this is what happens at each stage of your course, or if you're working together to design these wedding invitations, spell out your process of this is what happens in stage 1, then I do the wedding invitations, then you do the revision, or look at them and or whatever. So walking them through the process of what it looks like to work with you is important too.
I think that's so important, because that's what I get a lot of questions on, especially with custom anything. And I think as creators, a lot of us are doing custom. So people want to know, custom doesn't sound like it has a process, but it does. There's always a to-do list or a checklist. So I think, like you said, explaining it to them, here's what you can normally anticipate happening every step of the way. I think that's great to help them overcome their fears and their worries about, are you really going to take care of me? And then it also builds you as an expert. I've done this, I got you.
Yeah, exactly. And they need, people really need both, it's a lot of times people will focus on one or the other, either this is how you're going to feel and it's going to be amazing, but then they don't explain the how of how it works, or they just explain the how, and they don't really understand the benefits and how they're, how they're going to feel, how it's going to make their life easier.
Perfect. I love that. So it's about a combination of hitting those empathy points, those pain points, whatever you want to call them. I like empathy better, because I think if you focus on empathy and really understand what empathy is, then it helps you just understand you better, and it helps you understand your potential clients better too. So it's a blend of understanding their needs, their worries, their concerns, and then showing them how you're going to lead them through this process.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So I feel like we've touched on some really great things, like the difference between sales and regular content and how it's a funnel. And we've also talked about how to structure your work with me page, and then why it's so important to have this information on your website so that you can convert clients. I think that was kind of the big thing that a lot of people ask about, is how do I get more clients? Well, this is one of those steps. Make sure you're answering their questions, make sure you're selling yourself enough. That is part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, that's a big part of it. Another thing that I didn't mention, but want to touch on about what to include in the sales page is calls to action.
Oh, yes.
I see that a lot, especially with creative business owners, that I'm reading their website and then I get to the bottom of the page and I'm like, now what? Where do I go now? So be sure you've got calls to action, a very clear next step that you want them to take. So that could be a button that's click here to schedule a discovery call. It could be a form for them to fill out. Yeah. It could be a lot of different things, but just make it clear what you want them to do after they finish that page. And that goes for every page of your website.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. Even your about page, you don't want them to just get to the bottom of your about page and then have nowhere to go.
Right.
Make sure there's a call to action to either schedule a call with me or go check out my services on my work with me. Something for them to go and continue that trail.
Absolutely. And I was totally guilty of this. My first couple websites that I had where there was no calls to action. It was just here's the contact page at the top with all the other tabs. Here's hoping that works. And then now my most recent website, there's definitely a button, like you said, or a link. Every blog post has a link. So however you're getting content out there, you're totally right. It needs to have some kind of now what? Call to action. Now what?
Exactly. You know, those, like, it's so easy on the internet to just fall down rabbit holes of like clicking on one link to the next, and you don't know, like, you're like, how did I even end up on this page? That's what you want them to do on your website, right? You want them to just keep clicking through and like finding more blog posts to read or whatever, but just to stay on your website and keep reading. And so those calls to action are really good for that.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And I think that's one that we overlook. And I'm guilty of it, which is shameful because I have a degree in advertising. So I'm so embarrassed every time I look at a page and I'm like, I did not have a call to action there. Like my professors would be so disappointed.
It's so easy when you're doing it for yourself to like have those blind spots and forget that, you know, the things that you're telling other people to do. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't do that on my own website.
You're totally right. Yeah. Yes. So it would be good then, right? So double check, right? Have like a friend or somebody look it over. And once you've written it all up, ask them, does this speak to you? Or maybe like a past client that you love, like have them look at your work with me page, have them look at your content and just see if because obviously they're a client of yours, whatever you're doing spoke to them, have them look at it and see if it speaks to them still.
Exactly. I think it's really good to have, like, whether it's like a biz bestie or whoever, but just somebody to like send your stuff to be like, hey, does this look okay? Because it's so easy to, even the things that you like technically know you're supposed to do, it's hard to remember all of that like laundry list of things you're supposed to do. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's always good to have just another pair of eyes on things.
Yeah, which is scary. It is totally, like, even my best friend who is not at all in the creative industry, like she works in insurance, but she could technically be a client of mine. Like, it's scary to send it to her because I know she's going to be honest and be like, I don't like that. You shouldn't do that. But you need somebody like that in your life to call you out and be like, ugh, not that, or yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. I feel like we've covered really great stuff. And tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, which is ellierunkles.com, and then also on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most, and my handle is like @ellierunkles.
Awesome. I'll make sure I include that in the description too. And you said you're going to have a freebie, up and coming freebie for people. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've got a checklist up on my website that is a sales page checklist, but it's basically works for your Work With Me page too. So you can go and grab that checklist, and it goes through the things that we talked about, and then I think there are like 2 or 3 other points that we haven't covered today, but it's everything that you will want to include in your sales page or Work With Me page.
Totally worth grabbing. So make sure you check that out. That's going to be on your website, so we'll have the link below. So make sure you guys grab that. And I think it's worth checking and doing because that's, like you said, your website's where people find you first. So get it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, love it. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Ellie. I feel like we had a really great conversation.
Yeah, thanks. It's been really fun. Really enjoyed it.
Until next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.